fine. Have confidence. Be strong. Be brave. And be open-minded.
You know, 20 to 30 or more percent. So that's an issue. And, you know, again, other external factors is aircraft shortage. It's a global shortage. It's been happening for at least a year or two now, and it's not going to improve significantly in the next year or two.
So, and then that brings us to this conversation. As you know, we had Rep. King Hines the last show, and we were talking about the issues on air transportation. We have cabotage on the table. We have the EVS tap, and then now this Annex 6 is resurfaced again. I mean, where do you stand as far as what is the best approach and which is the best mechanism to use right now? Or should we just be patient and just kind of wait? I mean, where do you stand? I mean, at least as an executive director, this leadership role, because you're going to have to make some, really tough choices, right? And say, do I bite the bullet and do this to save the tourism industry? Or do we just follow what everyone else is doing?
So all of that, and you brought up a few things, EVS tab, cabotage, and Annex 6, right? So cabotage, if we are able to get an exemption, then, that would actually, I think, help our destination. It would open up the ability of other airlines to service both Saipan and Guam, which, they're already flying out here, and then they could kind of, go between Saipan and Guam too. And then Annex 6 and EVS TAP is kind of like in that same bubble, right? So right now there is, it's been about a month and we haven't had any movement on our applications for EVS TAP, or not our application, but visitors' applications for their travel authorization to the CNMI. And we appreciate all the different efforts from all the different stakeholders. But the fact is that it is impacting our ability to grow our tourism.
I recall reading something earlier, and I don't know if it was on Brad's platform or maybe another platform, but you mentioned something today, and you were quoted saying that if EVS TAP does not hurry up with this process and start turning over and clearing these passenger documents, then this might be permanent.
Yeah, so right now what's happening is because nobody from China, which is the main market that the Hong Kong Airlines serves, has been able to get their travel authorization, the airplane is empty because they're not able to come in. And so with that, the airline needs to cease operations, right? And so right now we've been informed that it's a temporary suspension up until June 15th, if things get resolved soon, right? And guess what? Like after June 15th, if it's still an issue, the airline can't wait. And I just mentioned aircraft shortage, fleet shortage, right? Yeah. If we lose, if they say, you know what, I got to send this plane to another destination, we might not get it back. So it is, it is a huge issue with us.
That's a very dire situation. I mean, if this is dire, that kind of scenario would basically kill us.
Yeah, for the Hong Kong, for the China market. Right.
Yeah. But even at any market right now is detrimental to recovery, right? I mean, we need the tourists to come back. We need the dollars, right? Yes. That's what we need we need the money, and we need people to spend their money here.
And actually, like right before this happened, we were informed that the flights have been doing well, and we were informed that the new GM of Hong Kong Airlines was in communication with the travel agencies to see if we can go from 2 flights to 4 flights a week. That would double the arrival for our China market, and also provide more connectivity for people coming in and out of the CNMI. So, and then just as that discussion was starting, then this came up, right? So it's kind of like 2 steps forward, or 1 step forward and 2 steps back. It feels. But you asked earlier, what is MVA doing? Yeah, we are, we're flipping over every rock. We are really looking at all the different possibilities. We are trying not to band-aid situations, but instead find the root cause of issues, right? So when the airline partners, or when the travel agencies are partners in the source markets, tell us an issue that they're having, we really try and identify what the root cause is and how we can resolve it together as a CNMI. So, it's not just within MVA, it's we're also talking to, like different stakeholders in the community, and actually everybody has been very supportive with MVA. They understand the difficulties that we face, and all the different agencies are very supportive. But it's like we need to just find out, we need to have a plan, and we're in the process of developing a plan that we can all, as a community, as a government, try to tackle.
So I noticed I was visiting your website earlier today, and you did have a 10-year plan. That was way before you took this responsibility on. Is that a plan that you guys are going to possibly amend and just kind of start from scratch, or are you taking parts of it and does some still apply right now? I mean, that was a 10-year plan.
I think from the time that was made, a lot of factors have changed already. And we'll definitely take the good things because we paid for those studies, and there's really good things to take away there. But the market has really changed. In fact, when I started this role just 2 months ago, I was coming in with ideas of how we can grow the market, but quickly I had to shift into how can we save what we have right now. So like it's just really quickly evolving. And we have to go with the flow and just keep on trying different things.
So one of the things I did notice too is that you've got this team. You've got a project manager. You have project development. You've got people that are somewhat savvy in kind of following the trends of what travelers look for, and I guess they've been there at several budget hearings. And so how's that working out? I mean, do you see that kind of growing? Because I notice that you also have the Marianas Experience Challenge, which that just brought a big smile to my face because it really truly ties into the tourism is everyone's business kind of slogan you guys have been talking about for generations. I mean, that's something that's never changed. But the fact that your project manager and your product developer, did they kind of come together and say, hey, look, let's do this? Or was this something that, you kind of brought up yourself? Because you come from a very strong background of, following tourists, what they like with your job at GFS. So is this part of this group and this team that you've kind of inherited?
Yes.
And
thanks for asking. So that was one of the suggestions that I had because I am a traveler. I love traveling. Even before MBA, it's something I love to do. And when I travel, I look at social media and I look, hey, what can I do while I'm there? And I look for itineraries that people put together that locals or people who visited that destination put together. And I just noticed that we are lacking that here, right? Like we have so many different things for people to do, see and eat and experience, but I don't feel that we've packaged it in a way that people can say that this is going to be my itinerary when I come here, right? And we also want to support local content creators. We want people to be proud of their islands and to showcase it to visitors. So our plan is to use the content that we get and translate it into Japanese, Korean, Chinese, and push it out in those markets so that we can start getting people to really see what they can do on the islands the local way.
So how do you do that? So you assuming that you find the content you need, and you guys, what happens after that? So you approve a content, right? This contest is going to expire on the 24th, right? So you find your winner, and then what happens? How does this what do you do next?
So, we're going to use, of course, our existing social media channels, but again, we'll send it out to those different source markets, and they have their own social media channels like Naver and WeChat and different platforms that we don't use here, right? And just as if you were like scrolling on social media, sometimes you see ads, right? Or if you search Saipan or Tinian Rota, you might see an ad, or you might see content, and then that's basically how it's going to be used.
That's awesome. That's good to know, because sometimes, I mean, even like myself, I'm like, so then what happens to it? But now that we know that takes place, and that's comforting to know, because it would be such a waste for the content to kind of just someone take the time to build that for you and nothing happens to it, and that's sometimes a practice here. So I'm hoping that kind of takes it a step further, because that's ownership, they're proud to be from here. And I'm going to go back just a little bit. You mentioned something about an itinerary. And again, I was on your website today and I said, wow, they've got the list of hotels. They've got the list of the car rentals, transportation, food and beverage, dining, and stuff like that. So I noticed on the accommodations portion of the list that there was a lot of hotels and very few Airbnbs. So taxes are collected with the hot tax, right? And then what about these Airbnbs? Are they kind of being collected? Do we know the total number of Airbnbs out there? How does that, because you guys would be getting so much more money. I just couldn't believe that list was like 22 to be exact.
So I believe that the list of the different businesses there and things to do are our members, MVA's members, right?
Okay.
So they're part of a group of members, and part of the membership benefits is, we promote them and we give them this area as their platform.
Okay.
But you're right. Airbnbs are definitely something that needs to be looked into also, because
for sure.
I can't even answer your question on like how many there are and how they're being taxes being collected from them. But one thing that I do know is in recent discussions, we re-raised the issue of on those different platforms, for example, Airbnb.com, we should have the hot tax added onto that, so that when people book their accommodations, it'll be automatically charged, and then the CNMI government will get.
That's great. Funds. So it doesn't happen like that now.
I do not believe that happens right now.
Gosh, that's horrible.
Again, this was just brought up during a recent discussion, so it's something that we can.
Well, I'm so glad that you're actually looking into that, because as I was reading and kind of just trying to figure out, what can we do to help MVA, or where can we improve as collaborative partners, right? And that was one of the things that really struck out big time to me, was this Airbnb. And I'm like, wow, where is everyone? And then the next thing that came to mind was safety. Right? Because if we don't know where they are, and assuming something happens, how's public safety going to find them, right? I mean, all of these things are not linked together, and I feel like as a tourist, we should have these things all linked together. I mean, people come to the Commonwealth or any destination wanting to feel safe, have a great experience, and I think we've kind of maybe fallen short in certain things, and I'm not saying that that's your fault, You woke up to an inheritance and you're like, great, but you're doing a wonderful job. I'm just, these are the things that, like people talk about. They said, why would you come there? We have 20 unsolved cases of, and majority of them were tourists, right? And that still kind of is in the shadow of our tourism industry, right? And so I just want to kind of just throw that out there that, I think we need to figure out a way too to kind of get DPS involved and, kind of map this out, right? And have a map of where these people are. Because that would be horrible, The other thing also I saw in one of the laws was about your, I guess, MVA's involvement in the customs form. Do you guys get a lot of data out of that?
So we do. So the customs form it's a customs form, but at the end there's some questions like demographics, whether it's how many times they've visited the CNMI, and their where they're going to stay. So we do get a lot of information, and actually that's how we compile our visitor arrivals. So that's exactly where we get the visitor arrivals from, like, okay, how do we know how many are Korean, how many are Japanese, how many are Chinese, and it's from that form.
So from there, they're obviously being sold through this, tour agency, right? that's how majority of them come over through these tour agencies, or are they just like random? Because I don't know in the custom form if it says, how did you find Saipan, right? Like, how did you get, besides the airplane, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that would be good to know, right? Because then, and I'm just trying to figure that out, because you have tour agents, right? And then you have these young, I don't know what generation they are. I think they're Generation Alpha for some reason.
There's a few different
different
now.
ones, right? But you notice the travelers now, they don't have children, right? They probably have a pet.
Yeah.
And then a partner, and they just spend money, right? And you're thinking, how did you find this place?
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, come to think about it, I do think that the customs form has something
It does?
on there.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong, but we do have that data on, how many people are FITs, that's free and independent travelers.
Oh, okay.
And how many come with a tour guide
Package.
or tour package, right?
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Like the FITs is definitely a market that we want to grow, because that's the market that kind of does their own research before they come here, and they want to go where the locals go. They want to go to the hole in the walls. They want to go to the places that locals enjoy. We were just talking about that at the office earlier. Like small hidden gems, like Eddie's fish mark.
Yes.
I love it there.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best, treats for me for like lunch.
Yeah.
And, you can go and pick a live fish and have it fried up.
Yeah.
And I think like everybody should know that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're going with this is, we want to develop more content so that we can flood the social media with content. So when somebody goes on their Facebook and, Saipan, where's that? They type in Saipan and they can see all the different things that we have. And, so that's...
I love that you're going that route, because back then when we were, younger, it was marketing, right? People market it, right? You had this product and you market the product, right? You develop commercials. It's almost the same as what's happening now. But now it's kind of like transition and evolve into branding, right?
Yes.
It's more personal.
Yes.
You got to connect with it for some, and if you're not connecting with that, then it's all wrong, right? You're not doing what it's supposed to do, which is the branding part.
Yep.
So I love that you're taking that approach, because I think for a long time, even people, when we're drinking and having discussions under the mango tree or the coconut tree, it's like, Dalai, we've been doing this MBA and this marketing every time, the same. Yeah. And you can see this frustration because they want to do something different, right? They want it to thrive. And I'm glad that you're taking that approach, because sometimes, you have conversations, and I'm not saying I'm a pro at a lot of things, or I know a lot of things, because I'm not, but when you tend to be connected to something, you know it.
Yeah.
Right? And you feel it in your gut, and you're passionate about that. And when you talk to some people and they're like, okay, yeah, and you're like, they didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, these days we're finding that, people used to travel for like sightseeing. They want to see nice sights. Today they're traveling for connections. They want to build connections, like you said, So I think that's the shift that we have to, ask the whole community to go after is, like we do have beautiful sites. We do have different things to do, but let's put a story behind it so that we can build connections with people, right? We would love to also hear ideas from the community because, we, at MVA, there's certain things that we do to stay relevant and to stay on the minds of people. There's different things that we can do these days. And, we would love to hear some ideas and see how we can work together, because this is everybody's business, right? And we would love to collaborate with different people.
That's good. I'm glad that is going and you're taking that approach. The other thing that I wanted to ask, which, like I said, I was on the website earlier and I was looking at some of the videos that you had posted for tourists, and it had the sites. And again, you inherited this stuff. I'm sure these things were there before you even got there. So I think we've been really, focusing a lot on military tourism, and there's a group of people that always have this a group of vets that come every month, or I'm sorry, every year, and they go through this whole kind of historical kind of venture and go and they eat with the local families. But that seems like that's almost like a sister kind of package, right? And there's a group of families that have been very involved with that, and I think that's great. And then you also have, this cultural tourism. One of my biggest things is sports tourism. I mean, I come from a family of athletes. There's at least every household has one athlete in the Commonwealth. And I'm just wondering if that's something, maybe should we go back to that? Because, growing up, I don't know if you remember, we had that, Brad, what's that baseball team? They used to come out here, the Japanese baseball team.
We had the Giants came out, the Lotte
Giants.
Kintetsu Buffalo,
Them,
Tokyo Giants, SK Wyverns.
Oh, did you play baseball?
Right.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I think that would really help. Golf is such a big thing. I mean, I'm not trying to give you any advice whatsoever, but I'm just saying that these are the things that, people in the community talk about, right? I don't know if they talk about it because they want more training and more clinics, but maybe if we look at it from the tourist perspective, right, and the branding and the marketing perspective, it would be so great to have them come back, at least for the Japanese market. That's something.
Yeah, for sure. That is one of our focus, right?
Oh, great.
Sports tourism. So we actually have a team from Korea, professional team from Korea coming in December or January. But before then, they're having scouts come in this month, actually like a week or so from now. They'll have some scouts come in to see the field and everything, and see the hotels.
Yeah.
And it'll be the team plus their families.
Nice.
So, we are looking forward to that. We really promote it, and we try to secure those teams. There's also there was actually a schedule conflict with the dates that they wanted, because there was somebody else who had already booked those dates, and it was the Japan training team. But so we said, okay, is the Japan team confirmed, or are the dates flexible? So we were able to work it out in the end.
That's
but
great.
we are promoting that, and same thing with golf.
Nice.
Even soccer, like there's been some Japanese groups that came here, and they toured the soccer pitch in San Antonio, about doing some soccer exchange program or something like that.
That's awesome.
So there's these are all in the discussions, but again, it gets a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
Right now, we only, from Japan, for example, right? We only have 3 flights a week, and those flights have been, pretty fully booked, right?
Yeah.
They're like right now, they're pretty full, and our Japan market is growing. We reported last month that it's like 20% higher than the previous month. So we're seeing some growth there. It's not huge, but it's growth. Yeah. But then, when the soccer team wants to come and they have like 50 or 100 kids, they can't fit on the plane, so it's like, this is the challenge that MV is dealing with. So it's, we need to secure the air service. We need to get more flights, because no matter how hard we work with the marketing, with promoting, with, discussing different ideas, if there's no air service,
we're
they're not going to
handicapped.
come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this is it's very complicated, right?
Yeah.
And these
it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenario already at this point.
But we're not giving up.
Good.
We are working with each airline individually, and trying to identify how we can get an additional flight, or a flight from different cities, not just the same city that we have existing. And part of that, the airline needs confidence in our market. They need to know that there's demand. And then it goes to the point of, what kind of products do we have and activities and attractions on the island that would build the demand for people to come.
Okay, well, I'm going to be hopeful and I'm going to pray that, something, that something happens sooner than later.
Yeah.
But, other discussions that have come to the office, to myself in private, when I'm out with friends and, enjoying a nightcap and whatever, is this membership, right? And we see that there's, how many members do you have anyway, by the way?
I believe there's around 150 members.
Okay. And are those all just businesses that are, restaurants, all of those in that list that I saw? Okay. So here's my question then. And then you also have a board.
We do.
Okay. And one of the things that was brought to my attention, and I know you don't have to answer it, but I have to ask it because I said I was going to ask.
Okay.
So, we see that there is a membership of either private citizens who've had some experience in and with MVA, but one struck out to a lot of us, and the fact that there was one nonprofit that was actually written into law to be a part of the board, right?
MVA board?
Yeah, and I guess that's the Hand Me board or Hand Me Association. So I'm not going to get too technical into that, but what my question is, which I was asked to ask, and I would do a disservice if I didn't ask this, but you don't have to answer it. And then maybe that's something, right, that they could call their representatives and ask the question. Because we're feeling, at least a lot of the community members, such as artists and other members that also should be a part of, since it's everyone's business, want to partake in this membership. But one of the questions is that it just seems that it's a controlled membership by another association. So it's an association controlling an association, in a sense, right?
You mean Hand Me or MVA's membership? Because MVA has a membership. All you do.
I was talking more about the board.
Oh, the board.
The board in itself, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got
so
it.
you don't have to answer, but I'm just saying that I had to ask that there is, and I'm not trying to call anyone out, but I think the conversation that we were having was, why is it just the hotel representing and leading the discussion when there's other things?
Okay.
Because it just seems like the association is working with MVA, but is only tailored to just have an interest of just the hotel, as opposed to, encouraging that
A broader
tourism.
audience.
Right. So I guess, and again, right, it sounds like a political question, but it's not. But it's a valid question when you have people that are artists that want to join, but feel like they don't have a voice because they feel like it's run by just this association.
Okay.
But it really belongs to the public. You know what I mean?
So when you're saying membership, I thought you meant MVA's membership. 'Cause
Sorry,
we have a membership program.
Yes.
But, so, and that's also tied into this. As far as I'm aware, right, and I could be wrong, but there are 9 seats for board membership.
Right.
5 are appointed by the governor,
Right.
and then 4 are elected. So the elected get elected from the members.
Right.
Right. So if anybody, shall want to have interest in being a board member, we hold elections. I don't know if it's annually or as needed when there's a vacancy, but they would need to become a member.
Okay.
And then the members, basically vote on who would be in there. So that's
so then anyone can be a member. I can go in and be like.
As long as you get elected by the other members.
Okay, so then I can. Let's take the board for example. I can be a board member if the members of MVA elect me to be in a board.
Yes, and
Okay.
when I say members, remember I mentioned that we have like 150
Yes,
members.
yes.
Yeah, so those are the people who would have votes
Right.
for those.
You got to be a member.
Yes.
Okay, so how do you become a member?
So just go into MVA.
Uh-huh.
There's a simple application.
Okay.
I don't know if you need any supporting documents, but it's $100 a year.
Okay.
Of membership fees.
Okay.
And I'm new. I don't know all the details, but there are benefits to being a member. We have like general membership meetings twice a year, and also we feature the business on different platforms. And when there's different shows like trade shows, and your business coincides with what we're going after. For example, if you're a diving company and we're going to dive show, right, you would have opportunity to get exposure there. Wow. So there are opportunities and benefits, and that's as far as I know. I could be wrong, but that with my experience, that's what I've seen, and that's how the members
Interesting.
are elected.
I'm about to get a whole bunch of people to join your membership.
Please. Thank you.
We'll open that up and be like, okay, we got 300 members over here. Well, okay, that's interesting. I think I'm going to go back into that, because if really anyone can be a member, right? And that probably ties into your slogan that's been forever and a day, that tourism's everyone's business, right? Why would you say it's everyone's business, but yet, just have this limited amount of people talking about it, right?
Right.
We might as well be members. I don't know. That's interesting to me. I think I want to dig into that just a little bit more.
We can, offline. I know this is off the hill, but offline.
Yeah.
I can look into it more, like how the election happens. But I've attended one election, in the past, and as far as I could see, that's how it worked. Right?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the election, to be honest. Jamaica, really, I mean, that happens every time, right? People vote, and it's a numbers game. Great, it doesn't matter to me. I just, my hope is you work well with your board. That's my hope for everyone that is under and is at what they call the pleasure of the board. I really hate that word. We got to change that. But anyway, so I get it, and I'm not trying to put you in any trouble. We know how it works. I hope that you have a wonderful relationship with your board.
Yeah, I do.
That's great.
I do like
That's
the
good.
board. And
there's a lot of smart people in there.
There are.
Yeah.
And I work with them often. I call them whenever I have some question or need some guidance or some history behind things. I call them and they answer, and they give me the history behind different things that we've done in the past, and some guidance. But I think it's great.
One thing we learn for sure is you definitely need the history.
Yes.
In any leadership role you take within the government, history is very important.
Yeah.
I'm learning that the hard way too, sis. So, one of the other things that I had wanted to ask about, I spoke about the hot. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything that you want to share? I mean, what are your challenges? I mean, what are you, besides the air service? What are your expectations, I guess, from the community? Because when you see it, right, and again, you look around and there's trash, but we talk about the environment, and that ties into tourism. Then you talk about be kind and be loving to people. Then you have crime. And so how do you, I mean, people look at you as our leader in MVA. I mean, what would you like to share? How can we improve as a community so that we can also help you and help the Commonwealth, kind of brand ourselves and tell this wonderful story?
Right. So, before I answer that question, there are a few things that are happening. You talked about branding.
Yeah.
We are doing a global rebranding, and this is extremely crucial at this time because our destination has changed so much, and that will incorporate having workshops with different stakeholders on the island to really understand how we want to go out and portray ourselves to the rest of the world, right? And then also we've been for the past couple years we've been working on a project. We got an EDA grant for Marpi area, like 3 sites in Marpi, the Bird Island, Last Command Post, and Suicide Cliff, and that is almost about to go out to bid by the end of this month or early next month. Yeah. So there's so many different components, and MVA's main job is to promote the destination, get people aware of our destination, what we have to offer. But then there's just so many different other things, because basically everything is connected to tourism.
Yeah.
Every single thing, whether it's, roadkill.
Yeah.
It has to do with tourism. It's,
Yeah.
people hustling on the streets.
Yeah.
It's got to do with tourism.
Yeah.
And, a broken sign, tourists.
Right.
Overgrown grass, tourists.
Yeah.
But the fact is, MVA cannot do everything. We definitely need the community, like you said. We need help, and we need collaboration with all the different agencies and the public. And we have gotten that support, and I hope to continue get that support, because we are having so many challenges that are beyond our that are external,
Yeah.
right? And we're trying to combat that, and that's really where we spend a lot of our time. And we've gotten so much support. Like I said, we have Taste of Marianas. We've had DPS come and support with the security, with
Nice.
the
Grounds, yeah,
grounds.
yeah.
And then one of the complaints for last Taste of Marianas is the dust. So
Yeah.
DFEM's commissioner gladly
Sprayed it down with some
he would
water.
like to
Yeah.
for the next time, he
Nice.
offered to spray it down with some water. So those kind of things really
Small things made
small
big
things
impacts. Yeah.
help us,
Yeah.
and we really appreciate everybody's support. And things are not perfect,
Yeah.
but we want it to be. We want to make. We're all in it to make things better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so just communication
Right.
is important.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know we're talking about the buy-in and the community to collaborate, but one of the programs that you guys have is this young tourists, and you guys go to the schools and you talk about what tourism is, and talk a little bit about that, because you start them young, obviously. You're talking about the importance of tourism, and what do you talk about, and what is that whole thing? How does that
So there's two things. There's MTech, and then there's the My Wave
Okay.
program. I don't know the details of it, to be
Yeah.
honest. It is run by different advisors at
Yeah.
the schools, but MVA does go out, and I believe it's like every they target all the third graders, seventh graders, and like 10th graders or something like that. They try
Yeah.
and target so that every child would have an opportunity
Nice.
to learn about tourism and how it affects our island. So it's basically, teaching the kids young about who is a tourist, and how we want to welcome them, have them come back, because it impacts our economy.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
Yeah, so our board member Vicky Beneventi has been the lead on that for many, many years. Also Catherine Perry, and of course the MVA staff.
Nice. Yeah. We had our orchid show this past weekend for Mother's Day, and that was nice. We had a lot of really nice orchids, and former J.M. Guerrero who's part of the Cagman Farmers Association, was really excited, and he has this very, very strong desire for beautification.
Yes.
And he knows the importance of beautifying the CNMI, because what that means to the tourists when they see, lush plants and maintained plants. And he's just, he has this vision for where I guess he would like to see it, or not where it should be, but he has his own vision, right? Yeah. And MVA was so nice to provide some giveaways to the raffle.
Right.
And I tell you, those little burlap bags you got going on, I don't know whose idea was that, but you got to keep that on your
Okay.
because when we go shopping, a lot of the feedback I got was, I don't have to buy the shopping bag for 10 cents anymore, and I'm like, hold on, I don't think that can hold 4 chicken leg thighs. I'm not sure what the weight thing
Right.
is on that, but anyway, well, I think that's about really much of this conversation that I wanted to have with you. And I hope that you being there, you have a lot of vision, and you have a lot of grit. And I'm just so proud that, you took on the challenge, because when you're talking to a community that is just irate and all these external factors, and you're talking about supporting an institution or an agency that has one mission, and you have the external factor not going in your in your favor, I think a lot of us are going, so why do we support that? Right? Why are we going to support that when there's no air service anyway? Right?
Yeah.
So you're faced with a really huge challenge. And I'm just glad that you came. I don't know, any last words for you before we
Yeah,
kind of...
I mean, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I just also want to say that, the staff at MVA has been really, extremely on top of everything. Like I didn't expect to see, how organized everything is. Everybody knew exactly what they needed to do, and coming in, I was, very welcomed and surprised. Even the staff on Tinian and Rhoda, I haven't met them yet. I plan to visit them as soon as I can.
Yeah.
But they got everything down. And to the community, it is a tough time right now. I have my family. I have 4 kids, and I want the CNMI to be in a better place. And it is a difficult time for everyone, and we need to come together. Again, if anybody has some great ideas, great suggestions, we're there to listen and hear it out. We might not be able to do everything because funding is tight. MVA gets our funding from collections of hotel taxes.
Yeah.
So when there's no visitors staying at the hotels, we don't get our funding. So,
Yeah. It's all a ripple effect. Yeah.
But we want to support, as much as we can with everything.
Nice. Well, I'm so glad you came, and I'm so glad that you gave us some insight as to, where you're at, what your vision is, and where you hope to go. Hopefully things turn around for the economy, and it gives you some time to create that brand, allows us some time to, get the community together. But I'm hopeful, and I'm confident that you're the right person for the job. And I honestly, I mean, just talking to you here, I'm like, oh, she's got a lot of great ideas. And it's great to have that fresh kind of, idea coming in. And I remember when you were being sworn in, and I said, man, I would love to see that girl, one day be there. I think you have a lot of great ideas, and I'm very proud. And the fact that you're a woman is even, sorry, Brad, but I had to plug that in there.
I like women too.
I don't know, before we take off, was there any questions for Miss Jamika? Everyone kind of, I know there was a lot going on today with some stuff happening.
There was one comment that came in about the tourist sites and the need to improve them.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. As I mentioned, there are projects that we have that will be ongoing, and just today I had emailed about Ladder Beach, because the stairs there are really bad. My family went there the other week, and it's dangerous. But we don't have funding for it. But I am going out there to try and find out if we can get funding, because I hear of a lot of grants that are available, and those would be perfect opportunity to use some of that grants money if it's available to use for that purpose.
Might want to check Epi Cabrera.
Yeah, he's been, by the way,
he's been very helpful.
Very supportive. He helped us with funding some of the costs for Taste of Marianas.
Nice.
Because we also wanted to have our Tinian and Rhoda residents join us here and do
I saw that.
some performance and some sampling. So next, this coming Saturday, Rhoda will be roasting, Tinian will be roasting a whole
beef?
cow.
Oh my God.
So, and then, they'll be chopping it up and giving samples.
Was that donated by Senator Jude's
Yes,
farm?
I believe so, yes.
Wow, he's quite supportive, this senator. Thank you, Senator Jude, for bringing your cow over to the Taste of Marianas. Anyway, Miss Jamika, I know that you need to be out, and I don't want to keep you longer. Your daughter has a school project, and that's first and foremost, always number one for us. Family first all the time. So thank you for coming, and if there's any other feedback we get, I'll be more than happy to call you and say, hey, I got this. Here's an idea. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but take it and roll. And then I'd like to meet you. I've got some ideas about Garapan fishing base, but I think we'll talk about that when my thoughts are kind of all together. It's just an idea. I was just thinking about it now, but thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
And I
too.
appreciate your time.
Thanks for
so
having me.
much. Thank you, Brad. 1 second. Oh, my goodness. You'll be fine. Have confidence. Be strong. Be brave. And be open-minded.